go and start negotiating contract terms with them?
Well, you at the very least, you understand the implications of what you're signing. And a lot of times, you know, especially with smaller vendors, they like took somebody else's one and swapped out the nouns. And you really, no one's ever read this before? You know, and you have some, you know, I mean, it's very clear that if you go to Amazon and you say, I really don't like the SLA for EC2, Amazon's going to say, well, that's really nice. But a lot of other vendors are smaller. They stole their, you know, they repurposed someone else's content, and there's a lot of freedom to, you know, just say, no, that's not going to work for me.
Right.
Chris?
When you were talking about using specific contractual examples near the end, I mean, that's great, but I mean, can you give, just from the top of your brain, one example of how that actually worked out in the contract language? Something that said, you know, the parties will blah, 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 blah. By the way, here is the specific reference we are now making. Is that actually in the contract?
That's absolutely in the contract.
Could you give like one, even if it's just a vague example of how
Sure. Pardon me. So typically, you know, when we did a live game, or which, you know, we did this a lot, it was definitions of down. So SLAs would say, if the service is down, we will compensate you, and we would add paragraphs. For the avoidance of doubt, and for the avoidance of doubt is a wonderful phrase that means the rest of this paragraph is not in legal terminology, it's just to clear it up for the rest of us who are not lawyers.
And can you do that in multiple instances?
We
just
did,
to cover
absolutely. For the avoidance of doubt, downtime in this instance shall be considered as, you know, the party shall choose a set of reference sites throughout the world, and down will be considered a net average of more than 500 milliseconds per call time. And you put that in, and then it implies that you're going to do it, and then you call them up and we're like, we're going to use Pingdom, which by the way is the cheap version of Keynote. And we're going to use 80 sites, and here's the sites we're going to use, and they're going to be pinging you, and that's going to be our definitional thing. You don't actually have to put Pingdom in the contract, you just have to assert that there will be a set of monitoring sites, and the definition of down will be an average call time of response time of greater than 500 milliseconds. So that goes in there, and then, you know, you do the side negotiation. Because, you know, what the vendor will do is, well, we monitor from our other data center. And you're like, yeah, so I'm going to trust you to monitor your, how about I pay $70 for Pingdom? And they'll do, how can they say no, right? You know, so they go, okay, if you're going to pay for it, then I guess it's okay. And you give them a shared login so that they can look at the Pingdom reports. And then it's not you saying they're down, and it's not them saying they're up. It's Pingdom from Los Angeles pinging them and saying, from Los Angeles, it takes 870 milliseconds. From Cairo, it takes 1.3 seconds. You know, and look, it's red. And by the way, Pingdom has a 24-hour report, so look, it started being read at 3 a.m. You know, because the other thing you'll get is, well, it was slow briefly. It's like, no, it wasn't. So is that?
Any other questions, guys?
Quick for Nick. Does your backend, how does it tie into payment gateways and things like that?
We don't.
Okay,
We
so-
don't do any transaction services.
Okay.
That's something that you have to do with Apples and
Okay.
Androids.
Then that leads me
Oranges
into
and-
one for Bill. And I apologize because I had to take a quick call.
No worries.
Does Live Gamer, would you say that their service automatically puts them into a game loop?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
I'm no longer at Live Gamer though.
Right.
Okay, new thing.
Right.
So you can put them into the game loop if you design your code badly, and some customers did.
Yeah.
But best practices are, you know what? We're gonna do the thing where we fetch the balance, we hold on to it. 99% of the interactions with the wallet happen from this device.
Yeah.
So we pretty much know as a game client when that value changes. And we're also going to have a background loop that pings every 5 to 10 minutes while the guy's playing the game, so that if there was a gifting event, or if there was a repudiation and the credit card wasn't good and the money got pulled back, you find out relatively quickly. But you can totally do it in a client-side.
That was a really great suggestion, by the way. Because, I'm going to be talking to my developers tomorrow morning.
No, it's seriously something which, when I heard him speak for the first time about this a couple of months ago, that's when I said, I never tell this to people who work with our platform. This is so valuable. This is
Yeah.
something which you only get with a lot of experience, like Bill has. And it's very critical. There are times, like he pointed out, the internet is down, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
mobile is particularly susceptible. Mobile is really, really tricky. You could have a user who's just in a car or on a train right now, and he's going to have really, really bad connectivity.
Yeah.
There's no way that he's going to have a sustainable bandwidth which is good enough for anything at all, right? So these things definitely happen, and these are very valuable things which are important in how you write your code.
Okay. Any final parting question? All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming out. Thank you very much, Bill and Nick, for your time today. Guys, let's give them another hand. They're awesome. So, we have an event next week, which is on figuring out the best categories of games for startup opportunities. Another portfolio company, Stephen Sullivan from Playnomi, as well as AJ Yackel from Grosso will be here. A lot of data, a lot of analysis, and hopefully a nice framework for how you think about these things. So do come out, same time, Monday, and I promise the AV equipment will work, otherwise someone's going to die.